good to have you, Mr. Ritesh and Mr. Satish, for having this conversation on interpreting the interpreting the ROI on apprenticeships. Just to set you context for this, we've had a apprenticeship system in India for almost like now 61, 62 years old. But having said that, the number of apprenticeship in India today are at about 7 lakh mark, considering the population that we have, which is in the work age group, and also the young population that we have, vis-a-vis also the the skill deficit we have in our country. Our apprenticeship system is highly underutilized. But over last 2-3 years, we've seen that we can see some green shoots in the system, because the number of apprenticeship count has actually kind of doubled up. So from 3.5 lakhs to almost 7 lakhs is what the current head count for the apprenticeship is. From 22,000 organizations actively participating in apprenticeship to about 40,000 today is again 100% achievement what we're looking at. And the number of organizations that are registered onto the government portal for doing apprenticeship has also kind of gone up by 50%. It was about 1,20,000 a year back. Today, this year, the current we're talking about is about 1,70,000 registered organizations, which clearly indicates that organizations are, looking at, apprenticeship or exploring apprenticeship as a viable option to create talent. So I think what we really need to look at today in the talent, crunch scenario when we're talking about, India is reeling under 30 million skill deficit in our country, and every passing day it only kind of amplifies, because the way the supply is available vis-a-vis the way skill sets are ever evolving, the gap is not able to fill up. In fact, the hole in the bucket is going larger, and the leakage is much more. So what do we look at it? So what is the kind of industry reeling under with this kind of a skill deficit? Is obviously the whole kind of bandwidth, which kind of adds up to the employers, because they have to look out for the talent. And because of which today's scarcity of the talent, it's the cost of hiring, which becomes a major concern. So I think what we really need to look at that, how do we reduce our cost per hire, our time to hire? How do we look at improving the talent productivity, and what are the initiatives that we need to look in investing in talent creation? And we also need to look at the return from these investments by purely looking at that, are we able to develop the human capital for our organizations? So we did a recent survey basis which it came about that 65% of the organizations are considering apprenticeship as a talent development strategy. It's an integral part of it. About 90% says that they want to take it as a social responsibility, and only 16% are considering apprenticeship as a compliance imperative, because apprenticeship is an act that needs to be complied to. Some of the tangible benefits which organizations cite are that it definitely optimizes the talent cost, because it's purely we're talking about balancing between the buy and the build phenomena for talent. So I think that's where the talent cost gets optimized, followed by we're looking at your real-time talent availability, because that's again improves the productivity on ground. You reduces your time to hire. You realize that the potential productivity loss due to attrition is taken care of as well. And of course, it's the improved productivity because people go through a structured form of training, which kind of adds to the productivity level. In India, only 4% of our workforce has gone through structured form of training. Whereas if you were to look at China, has about almost like 84%. US has about 70%, UK, most of the European countries has about 75%, Australia has about 70% of the workforce that goes through the structured way of training. But in India, it's just about 4%, which is very, very negligible. Considering that the amount of informality which exists in our labor market, apprenticeship also happens in a very informal manner. We also look at that, can higher education improve the level of engagement with the talent, because there's a talent exodus which happens. Again, it's a byproduct of the scarcity of talent. People tend to leave job for the sake of money, or organizations are paying heavy price to acquire that business, but again, they reel under the attrition rate. So can higher education be the hook to attract, develop, and retain talent? And 90% of the organizations kind of agree of utilizing or leveraging higher education for this particular purpose. Also, we realize that organization, when they are implementing apprenticeship, says that it's basically the mindset of the organization or the people or the leadership has to align to apprenticeship. Only once there's a message from the top, you realize that there is more effectiveness in the implementation. But while the mindset has to be changed, you also have to make change in the cultural shift as well, right? There has to be cultural shift, but there has to be the culture of accepting and embracing traineeship or the learning and development culture where apprenticeship can easily settle down. And at the same time, there's certain systemic changes that needs to be done to ensure that the program becomes successful. Primary reason for people to look at apprenticeship engagement, again, suggests it's going to be rationalizing your talent cost, followed by it's augment and create the talent pool, followed by it's a staff loyalty and the retention that organization witness by engaging with apprentices, followed by the government is subsidy that is kind of act as a motivating to look at apprenticeship to develop talent, followed by the compliance, and lastly they think that probably it also kind of accelerates or kind of support your business growth as well. Again, as per a survey, the organizations are willing to spend a premium for paying these apprentices or engaging these apprentices because they realize that the outcome is much more than reeling under the scarcity of talent. So the premium they are ready to pay varies anything between 40 to 80% depending at what level are they going to engage these apprentices. I think these are some of the very heartening facts to look at, that organizations are finally able to realize the merit in doing apprenticeships. The basic way to look at doing apprenticeship is I think this is a formula which has been created by ILO, which says that how do you kind of assess the ROI is basically you look at what are monetary benefits, you look at what are the tangible costs which are associated with it, divided by the training cost into 100. As I said, it's a very, very basic, calculator, but because it is so basic, it generally tends to skip our attention. And we do not understand how to assess or come up with a matrix to drive the actual performance of apprenticeship in the company. That's the kind of matrix we look at, that, it's a productivity enhancement model where we realize that the challenges which exist at the beginning of when you're looking for a talent and how it kind of amplifies as a person once you get on board, these challenges kind of amplify. Obviously, there's a skill shortage in the market, which has its own set of challenges because it impacts the productivity since you don't find the right skill set in the market. It also leads to talent acquisition, which kind of jacks up the cost for your mobilization. And the first 6 months usually have very high attrition rate. What we're saying is that can we look at a blended mode where we blend the apprenticeship with the higher education? And again, we look at on-the-job, online self-learning mechanism to develop talent. How the qualification corridor, which exists in the form of a certificate, diploma, advanced diploma and a degree, can help you to retain the talent because higher education becomes the hook for the talent, retention. We look at investment of not more than about $12,000, which largely entails the stipends plus the little bit of the administrative cost in maintaining these apprentices, which roughly comes out to be 54 rupee per hour, considering 220 hours of learning which goes into apprenticeship, and how the productivity levels go up from NSQF level 3 to exiting at national skill qualification level 7. Obviously, this is more basis the assessments which get done, but you realize that how the person is gaining proficiency every passing minute or every passing day. That person, kind of improves by learning by doing, and you realize that your ROI could be in tune of almost 3 to 4 times of the investments done because your talent retention improves by 25%. We say that your talent acquisition cost goes by 50%, and we also see that how your productivity level goes up. and how you're able to create a well-oiled machinery in your organization, which is churning talent real time. So I think that was a brief presentation, that we wanted to set the context with that what apprenticeship actually does for the organization, and on a larger context, how it is beneficial for the country's economy. Ritesh, you and Mr. Satish, both of you are the stalwarts industry. Ritesh, you head the HR function for a warehouse or a logistic company for the agriculture, NBHC. And Mr. Satish, you are again, from the automotive sector, Varroc India. You are leading a huge organizations. While both of you have a diversity brings in, because one comes from the logistics, agriculture, another one from the automotive. But I think one thing that really binds or common to both the organization is that you are very labor-intensive organizations, right? And both of your organization have also been leveraging apprenticeship for many years in the form of developing talent. But I think my question to you to begin this conversation would be that what prompted you as an organization to explore apprenticeship? What was the thought process behind that? So maybe any one of you can start and help me with this.
See, like you rightly said, automobile or auto component or even manufacturing industry engages huge number of manpower, is a requirement of the business. And mainly dependence is always on contractual labor and of course permanent blue-collar workers. In this, especially in automobile industry nowadays, in last so many years, we have been witnessing there is a skill gap availability across the manpower requirement of the organization. That's why most of the organizations are looking at this kind of apprenticeship program, wherein they can develop these apprentices internally for the specific skill set required for the organization. And this apprenticeship program definitely help us in developing this manpower as per our requirement, and in future they becomes our first line supervisors or first line managers. That's why we are looking at this apprenticeship program in a very large scale. Almost, I don't mind sharing here, we are one of the organization wherein we are engaging at group level more than 23% apprentices across the group.
And how long have you been engaging with the apprenticeships in your company?
You have been engaging these apprentices. See, seriously, we started looking this apprenticeship program since last 7-8 years. That time numbers were very less, but nowadays, based upon the requirement of the organization and based upon the requirement of our business itself, we have started engaging more and more number of apprentices across the group.
Great.
Earlier, it was basically like you, in your introduction, you rightly said, mindset was there amongst the plant heads, especially while engaging these apprentices. But nowadays, everybody is very well tuned and aligned with the management thought process of engaging these kind of apprentices, and they will become your future employees.
Absolutely. And what do you also absorb these people in your employees?
Yes.
And yes, what percentage that be?
See, I can say we have two programs. One is apprenticeship program, and another is our internal academy program, Varroc Academy program. With these programs, we basically engages. We have a process of basically publishing our job postings, internal job postings. And for those jobs, even it is a fresher's job or experienced job, all those internal job postings have been posted across the organization, and those are basically shared at the notices, notice boards also, wherein anyone can apply.
Sure. Okay, but you will not know what percentage get absorbed or into the employment.
That I need to check out actually. Sure. I don't want to share any wrong information here.
Sure, understood. But you do absorb people into
employment. Of course.
Fantastic. Coming to you, Ritesh, I think it's very clearly stated by Satish that it is the sole purpose of creating talent, and it seems like also because they're also absorbing the people into employment. What has been your thought process of engaging apprenticeship in the organization?
Okay, so I just reflect on certain the inputs that you have shared through your presentation, and for the larger purpose in terms of so that the audience who might be listening to this particular conversation, I think very important is, as you rightly said, Apprenticeship Act is 1961. It's way back, and but there are what I recollect is there are two major amendments which has happened in 2019 and then eventually in 2022, which indicative in terms of the stipend, which normally we are talking about ROI, right?
Yes.
And of course, the investment piece, right? There, I think there's a major change which has happened. And the third piece, which was introduced in 2016, the program is called NAPS. Okay,
Yeah.
That's the new version, new avatar of the entire Apprenticeship Act, and which has created the actual reform or the way of looking at the apprenticeship in a much better way and much beneficial for the industry, right? Second aspect, I just tell you, and I will restrict this particular point on the ROI, because that become very important when it looks from the cost point of view. If I look at the Indian wage structure or Indian wage system, okay, highest wage, if I look at India, highly skilled category, then the state of Karnataka is at the top, right? Then the Delhi comes in terms of the highly skilled category payout. And the average payout, if you look at it, average wages will be 18,000, 17,000 respectively for Karnataka as well as Delhi, right? Whereas the Apprenticeship Act or the new version, which is the NAPS of the 2016, it clearly indicates that even the graduate who comes under the apprenticeship, the program, that person could be paid at least minimum will be the 9,000 rupees, and then additional 50% should be paid to him as for the basic training, right? That is approximately around 13,000 if I calculate the cost point of view. Hence, in terms of the output or the outflow from the organization point of view, it is much lesser than the minimum wage, right?
So is it the cost factor which kind of prompts you to look at apprenticeship and the government subsidy? I think that's how you're trying to optimize your cost, manpower cost.
No, so it's from the both the sides. So first is the cost point of view, and then I'm coming to the talent piece, right? Okay. So when you look at the cost, and I'm giving the perspective from the organizations and spread in different sectors, which has a lot of potential and a lot of opportunity for all the apprenticeships, which is categorized into 5-7 brackets with the different courses and different qualifications, right? And so that's why I presented that 13,000 vis-a-vis 17, 18,000 rupees, which outflow, the immediate outflow, which comes into picture from the organization point of view. So the benefits, if you look at it, first is it's a law, right? And if you reflect, and I'm just trying to present it here, is like any organization which has 30 or more people or the employees or the workers in the organization, it's mandated, right? There's no choice for them. And the range is always 2.5% to 15% of the total workforce. And it is clearly now defined that 2.5% to 15% is your total workforce, including your contractual workers, right? Yeah. So there's no thin line of the interpreting the law. It's very clearly depicted, and hence it is mandated for anybody, any organization which has 30 or more, right? Only the benefit or the organization, they have a choice who have the manpower of between 4 to 29 numbers, which is less than 30. They have a choice whether they should opt or they should just leave it, right? So that's how the law says. So in that case, almost all the organization, other than the smaller one, I think to be 100% compliant, this is very much beneficial. That's point number one in terms of benefits and from the HR perspective. Second is, if you look at the overall, the number of the talent, and I'm calling out this particular, the category of the prospective workers or employees for future. from the organization point of view as a talent, because almost 65 lakhs every year there are graduates who are passing out, right? If I have to fragment it and considering it as a technical knowledge, also technical background, then in that case 15 lakhs are the engineers, and let me present to you, Sumit, that 49 lakhs are only the BSc graduates, right? If these are the numbers who are already available in the market, so when we talk about talent, these are the fresh talents whom we can pick it up, we can train them under the Apprenticeship Act, and they will going to help us in bringing the better productivity. That's point number 2 in terms of benefit. Point number 3, when you pick them fresh from the campuses and put them under this apprenticeship program, invest on them for 6 to 36 months, which is the part of the law itself, and it clearly indicates, then there's a high percentage or high opportunity of having a better loyalty, longevity, as well as organization citizenship that we talked about, right, among this group of apprenticeships. The last point which I would like to tell you is that, which becomes very crucial, especially when we talk about the manufacturing sector, if we use this particular Apprenticeship Act, not restricting ourselves only to the percentage which is very clearly defined to 2.5% to 15%, rather increasing that percentage and hiring more apprenticeship in the organizations, we have minimal chances of any kind of industrial unrest. Because when the loyalty as well as the longevity goes up, the chances of any kind of industrial relation among the workmen will be very less. So I think these 4-5 pointers are very clear in terms of the benefits. Hence, I think this program is really going to help.
Great. So I would just like to know the same question which I asked Mr. Satish, is that how many apprentices do you engage with? He said that there's almost like 23%, because being a Maharashtra-based establishment, the maximum limit that you can go up to is 25. I think same goes for you, because you are also a Maharashtra-based organization. So what percentage do you engage, and do you also end up absorbing these apprentices in the employment, or you just kind of let them
currently we are evaluating it. We have not at all taken the apprentices, and because we are spread all across India, so we are not restricted to Maharashtra. My warehouses are spread all across India and up countries, right? And hence there is a lot of opportunity to consider this kind of program, which will help the organization to have a better and better trained workforce on ground.
So will it be okay for me to say that because the benefits that you just cited is the reason why today you're considering apprenticeship as a solution as part of your talent strategy? Will it be okay for me to say that?
Yes, Sumit.
Great. Coming back to you, Mr. Satish, I think, Ritesh has already kind of cited the benefits, what you're looking for, but you have been doing apprenticeship for last, almost like a decade that you just mentioned. And as you mentioned that now, earlier, while the mindset was very different because you just want to get started from talent, but today it is given, which clearly states that you have a well-established apprenticeship system in your organization, right? With that much of experience with your organization, would like to hear, what are the tangible benefits that are absolutely visible to you, and what are some of the intangible benefits that you as an organization face?
Thanks, Sumit. See, this apprenticeship program basically ranges benefit to the apprentices, both means as a participant apprentice as well as organization. Of course, there are certain tangible benefits and intangible benefits also. Tangible benefits I can narrate here is one is this apprenticeship program. This entire apprenticeship program itself provides a training, hands-on training, basically hands-on training to the apprentice, and allowing him to acquire practical skills specific to the trade or profession. Correct. And this skill development enhances their employability in future for their career growth. Okay. Second is workforce development. I can say workforce development here is basically those programs can be tailor-made to meet their specific needs and ensuring a skill and capable workforce that align with the particular business requirements. Then, of course, there is a cost saving. These are the tangible benefits because cost saving, Ritesh has rightly said, it is 9,000 rupees, but definitely as an organization, we pay 90% of the minimum wage, and 90% of minimum wage comes to for unskilled category in automobile engineering industry is almost 20,000 rupees.
So,
So
sir, that
90%
helps
of
me understand. I think sorry to cut you here, but if you say that you pay much more than what is the prescribed amount,
yeah.
why do you end up paying more?
Yeah, because we wanted to basically attract and retain those apprentices in the organization.
Okay.
Our numbers are huge, and
Hmm.
we don't want apprentices to basically enter our premises and after 1 or 2 months or 3 months he leaves. So we monitor that their apprenticeship attrition rate also. That's
Okay.
why we have also decided whatever benefit government is giving, that 1,500 rupees per apprenticeship per month, that benefit is also given to the apprentice
Passed
as a
on to them.
yes.
Wonderful.
We,
Wonderful.
we, we are not keeping that benefit. Earlier, what happened, how it came. 3 years back, actually, we have our internal auditor team, and they used to go to each plant and audit this apprenticeship program, and they used to basically give us this information. This particular plant wise, these are the so many plants, and they have not yet got this apprenticeship 1,500 rupees benefit, and that amount goes in crores, and that becomes an auditor point for blaming HR. So what we decided ki instead of keeping this money and following up with the government, best way is to pay back this amount to the apprentice as a
Makes sense.
bonus or
Absolutely.
as an incentive basically, and that has basically helped us in retaining those apprentices. They are very happy. In hand, they are getting 90% of the stipend. In addition to that, every month now they are getting this 1,500 rupees also as an incentive. So automatically, my absenteeism and attrition both are controlled.
Both taken care of.
Yes, yes.
Great, very great. And let's talk about some of the intangible benefits that you would be
Intangible benefits, I can say, basically quality monitoring. Okay,
quality.
because of
Okay.
this apprentices, because earlier we used to use certain contractual labor or unskilled workers, and with this apprenticeship program, now all these apprentices are very well. Of course, we take IT holders or diploma holders or even degree holders as an apprentice, and they work in the line. So our quality of work, quality of the product, and productivity, all these aspects have been increased.
Oh, great.
Okay. And of course, there's a moral also, employee moral is also increased. These apprentices basically they are working with the big because we have a mentorship program for the apprentices, and apprentices always work under their supervisor or mentor. And mentor basically they work very closely with the mentor, so automatically they know each and everything about the organization, and so their moral is also boosted. Okay, then of course this also enhances our company reputation in the market, because of course this is a social cause also this company is engaging so many number of apprentices, and these apprentices are very well trained, and they are basically become employable in the market, and when they become employable in the market they are able to sell themselves. So in future definitely we are going to get benefit of their
It's the
employability.
employer branding or employer
Yes,
of the choice kind of a
right.
thing that
Yes.
impact.
And this apprenticeship program has also basically contributed to the diversity and inclusion.
Yeah, I think that's another point which we want to harp about, but that's good that you have touched upon it. But I think, Mr. Satish, I just park this for the moment. I think these are very beautiful, intangible benefits, which you have cited about, because tangible something is more business oriented.
Yes.
But I think whatever intangible benefits are very, very humane and very sensitive, for anybody or for any organization as well. And Ritesh, assuming that, when you are looking for apprenticeship, although you mentioned about the various benefits, but you do intend to enjoy the similar kind of benefits, which are tangible and intangible benefits that Mr. Satish just spoke about, right? Uh, uh, you know, while, while I think it will be premature for me to ask you this thing question, but because you, as you said, that you're not, doing it currently in your organization, but I'm sure with your vast, rich experience, you have done apprenticeship, you have experienced apprenticeship. Maybe you would like to throw light upon that. When you are doing apprenticeship as a process, as a system in the organization, how do you evaluate apprenticeship program? What are the metrics for you to assess that it's good, bad, or ugly?
So I think the genesis goes back, Sumit, in the way of hiring these apprenticeships or apprentices from the campuses spread across all over India. When I say hiring, I mean to say that the parameters on which the hiring should happen, right? And there are basically 3 to 4, if I have to present it here. One is the technical assessment, definitely, whatever is the learning from as a fresher from the campus. That was the first important thing. Second is, which is very important and which falls under intangible in long term, which is your behavioral assessment, right? And divide and putting and actually bifurcating the behavioral assessment into subcategory and being very specific. You have to check in terms of value systems, right? The kind of aspiration the person is having, right? That becomes very important, and these two are actually intangible and very much beneficial for the organization, right, when at the time of hiring. So first is the technical, second one is the behavioral, then the third one, if you look at it, is in terms of the kind of the career that I would like to give it to that person, right? It should not restrict that person only up to apprenticeship, the period, and beyond that absorption, and then there is no program, right? Because the kind of investment, either in terms of outflow or in terms of the investment by mentoring, as rightly said by Satish, is huge, right? So why don't we have a clear-cut career path for such kind of people when they are joining the organization? That's the third. And the fourth piece is, at the end of this entire procedure and entire process, how good we are giving back to the society, right? By first foremost is by generating the employment. That's one. Second is how we are making a fresher a good human being by training that person that, okay, other than the technical aspect, there are other aspects that help you in grooming yourself, right? And in long term, this particular capability enhancement will take you to the next level. So don't restrict your thinking that if I am an ITI or a diploma engineer, I will land up doing the same job at the factory shop level, right? So there are instances where with the right process, right, the career path, as well as the right program beyond your apprenticeship program, if the organization has designed, these people have moved up in the organization hierarchy, right? And the most important aspect, which I just tell you, that when we used to hire in my earlier assignment in the factories, especially in pharma and other FMCG side of business, we used to make sure that the apprentices, when they are coming to us and getting settled in the different factories, the program itself is designed 100% into 70-20-10 ratio. And if you closely observe it, the act itself talks about it from 1961 onwards, right?
So tell me, help me understand it, Ritesh, that what you're talking about, that how it's mostly the social side of the apprenticeship is what you evaluate an apprenticeship program, and yes, the kind of skill sets that you are able to inculcate with the youth is how you assess that. Now, yes, if I were to look at the similar thing for an apprentice, that if you were to evaluate an apprentice, on what parameters would you evaluate an apprentice? Or do you think there is no thin line, or there's no differentiation between the evaluating apprenticeship program and the outcome, or let's say the apprentices? Okay, let me just rephrase it. On what parameters would you do the performance analysis of an apprentice?
Okay. So first and foremost, once the person is in the system, and going through the apprenticeship program in the organization, the first important aspect is the learning agility that the person is showing, right?
Yeah.
The kind of behavior that is being demonstrated and observed by the supervisor and as well as the other colleagues at the shop floor level, right?
Mhm.
That's the second piece. Third piece is in terms of learning itself, the technical learning, whether the person is showcasing that he can take more, right? In terms of, let's suppose if he is restricted in one area, let's suppose it's a if any person, if any apprentice is looking after the let's suppose any one section of the workshop, then in that case, whether the person has shown interest or showing interest to take up the learning in the other areas of the shop floor or also or not.
Okay, initiatives, basically
Initiative.
initiative and ability to take those I would say, functional
Yes.
skills.
So, but when we restrict ourselves to the initiative, then we are shifting the lens from a apprenticeship to the any officer level. So that's why I was bifurcating it and minutely telling you what all things that need to be looked at, right? Uh, the third important aspect here is that whether the person who is a part of this program is able to understand the organization value systems or not,
Okay.
and eventually whether that being demonstrated, practiced, and shown at the workplace very well or not.
So I would say, if I would just sum this up, what you're talking about is basically the learnability aspect of the person, the attitude and the aptitude, primarily what you're talking about, ability to, willing to learn with different exposures that a person gets, how he's able to inculcate those technical functional skills, and also how well the person gets settled, into the culture of the organization by understanding the values of the organization.
Yes.
Will that be okay for me to sum this up to what you just mentioned?
Yes, culture of the organization is much larger. Most, I think, because the person doesn't will. I think he or she might have not even seen the corporate office. So the culture, whatever the person experiences it at the shop floor level, that's how the grooming happens.
Sure, understood. Coming to you, Mr. Satish, I think the similar thing. I think you've had a vast experience of dealing with apprenticeship as an organization, from the organization point of view. So when you evaluate apprenticeship as a program, how do you assess the outcome of the program? Like, do you think that it's working well, it's working bad, or it's a useless thing for you, you're just doing it? So how do you evaluate the program? And say, how do you evaluate the performance appraisal for the apprentices?
Sure. No. I fully agree with the points Ritesh has already mentioned about the metrics used for evaluating these apprentices, and of course, whatever points he has mentioned about the evaluating their performance. I fully agree to that. And over and above that, I would like to say here is basically we assess basically their individual progress of these apprentices in acquiring the specific skills assigned to them. Okay, skill and competencies, of course, and of course there is a workplace performance also. Whatever performance we measure, because each line, each station is there is a logbook maintained. Like when we mention about the basically in our words, it is logbook, or is a performance measurement measured basically supervised by the supervisor. He mentioned on daily basis about the productivity, performance, everything has been maintained. Then another metrics I can say here is training progression. We basically line wise we keep a track of their progress to the training curriculum, whatever training curriculum has been assigned to them for whether it is technical or soft skill, whatever it is, that has been monitored. Then another point here is we take feedback from their line supervisor or mentor about the progression of the apprentice. Okay, that is most important for us. And another important point here is, apart from value system, there is a safety and compliance. This is very much essential and important part in a manufacturing industry. Key safety and compliance has to be followed very strictly. No compromise on that. And of course, other points are their attendance and
The
absenteeism.
discipline. I think I was about to ask you this
That is most
because
important because the numbers are very restricted, budgeted, given to the plants. And if your absenteeism on daily basis is more than 10%, then that becomes a problem. So we ensure that these apprentices comes regularly to the work so that we don't require to again to ask contractors to send in some additional people.
So great. I think fantastic. I think definitely discipline.
Practical. This is basically practical I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Nothing theory.
Yeah, I know. I think both of you have come up with a very, very valid points that what the organization should consider while engaging with apprenticeship, because many times organizations say that we are doing it because it's a law, we have to do it. Now they said that we just have to get it off our back. So there is no proper methodology which they are focusing on the performance to gauge the performance of the apprentice and the apprenticeship system. I think some of the parameters that both of you have cited will give some clarity in the thought that what are the how they need to look and assess apprenticeships. So thank you so much for that valuable inputs.
I want to interrupt you here earlier because we have been working in the industry since more than 30 years now. But initial days, I also witnessed this. This apprenticeship program for any organization was a headache. No one wants to basically, since it was a compulsion mandated in the law, that's why we were mentoring those apprentices, and all the time we used to give reasons to the apprenticeship advisor how we are not able to complete the quota. And today's scenario is different. We wanted to go beyond the quota.
I think it's purely the evolution. You start with the compliance, and I think that is what my experience also says, that people just want to get started to experiment. It starts with a compliance mandate, they experiment with it. As I said, if you have the correct mindset, the system and the culture, you will start realizing the success. And that's when as you rightly mentioned, that over the period of time, how that thought process has moved, or evolved from just taking it as a compliance to taking it as a talent creation supply chain for yourself, right?
Yes.
Okay, coming to my last point to both of you is, I think Mrs. Satish, you touched upon the diversity aspect. And something, which we were talking about yesterday as well. I think it will be fantastic to see that how apprenticeship is kind of adding to your diversity in the workforce.
Okay, see, it becomes very easy for us to basically engage female employees, especially as a apprentice. Because for our organization, yesterday only we had a meeting, and today we are at around 29% of female employment. If we wanted to reach up to 40% by end of the year, this was the message given by our chairman. So yesterday we were evaluating what are the challenges or what are the basically requirements we need to fulfill, and what are the investments we need to invest to attract and retain and ensure that we achieve this progression from 29% to 40% of female employees across the organization, which will basically give us this advantage of having one amongst the automotive industry having almost 40% female employees in the organization, because we have already benchmarked our overall strategy with even MG Motors is engaging almost 36%, 35 or 36% of female employees in their Halol plant. Okay, Tata is engaging 3,000 numbers, and there is a story. Tata is already published that story in various news channels and all about how they are basically picking girls from the rural areas and developing them as a first line supervisors or even line in charges. There is a success story, of course, and we also wanted to have such kind of success story in Varroc. So that's why yesterday actually I was talking to you, Sumit, to give me a case study, and let us plan in one of our plant to have this degree apprenticeship program wherein we can showcase the industry partners. Where are we today? We wanted to showcase that success story of female manager on shop floor who is basically comes from this apprenticeship background.
That's really, really wonderful. Very wonderful. Pritesh, you have a similar experience. About 28%, if I'm not wrong, you also have more or less a similar percentage of women engagement in your workforce. How do you think that apprenticeship can channelize and can meet the diversity in gender? And I remember yesterday we were also talking about that it's not just the women, you're also talking about the LGBT community as well. So please throw some light on that.
Yes,
yeah, Sumit, so let me tell you one interesting fact that once again, the data side, if you look at it, in India, the enrollment numbers in the, let's suppose, graduate program, a simple BA graduate program, which we have a lens that they don't get employment after doing the BA kind of course, right? And I'm talking about all over India BA enrollment numbers as per the reported by the AISHE, which is All India Survey for Higher Education, right?
That's right.
It shows 1 crore is the enrollment in the BA kind of program. Okay.
Yeah, that's the highest actually in BA.
Yes. And you won't believe 47.4% of that 1 crore are our female talent. But when we gradually look at it on the availability of talent across sector, across different geographies, we don't find that much, right? And we are not able to find those 47.4% everyone. Is reason being is, if we will go further deeper and go at the up-country level, we will going to tap, understand, and hire them at a very initial stage, which is after completion of graduation or any kind of diploma or vocational courses when we talk about, right? Hence, that is the talent pool, which is till now, it's untouched. And there is a lot of opportunity from where we can pull them up and give them the career. And that's how exactly the diversity can be improved at the apprenticeship level. And
so basically, you're expanding your pool. You're saying that how you expand the pool and find your best talent out of that.
Yes, because this pool, you will not find them on Naukri.com and IM Jobs and other the job portals that we always get attracted to. And especially when we look at the blue collar jobs or the shop floor or the factory level jobs, we have to go much deeper. And if required, even travel to different up-country locations and tap such kind of talent. And that will be helpful for the organization. That's point number one. Point number two is, I'm a strong believer, and I have experienced it myself, that the LGBTQ community, and especially each and every the talent which is available in this particular community, they have a lot of potential. I just tell you, before taking up this assignment, when I was working very closely on one of the vocational course, which is also part of the corporate social responsibility of one of the multinational companies in India, where they are sponsoring the education vocational course for the LGBTQ community. And I was just mentoring them during the program. And you won't believe, I got each and every kind of qualification among that particular community. So I was having ITI with the civil background, ITI mechanical background. I was having BA English honors. I also was interacting with somebody who has a mass comm background. I was also interacting with somebody who is a MSc in chemistry, and they all were highly talented with lot of aspiration. This particular, I think the pool of talent which I have personally, when I extensively work with one of the consulting organization down south, I realized the kind of the qualifications which we always look for, that is already available. We only have to be unbiased while hiring such kind of talent.
Absolutely.
And look this pool from the talent point of view, rather looking them from the community point of view.
No, right? Absolutely. I think you nailed it. When you said that you really have to be unbiased. But today, I think that sense prevails. And I think organizations are realizing that how diversity is only doubles up the chance of finding the right talent for their organization. I think.
Yeah.
So I think Beautiful thoughts coming from both of you. Obviously, your opinion, the kind of inputs that comes from you speaks your vast, rich experience in dealing with apprenticeship, and I'm sure there's a lot that the industry is going to gain by hearing your thoughts and opinions. I thank both of you for sparing time from a busy schedule. I know both of you run a huge organizations, huge responsibilities to manage, but sparing some time for a cause like this is really, really appreciated. Thank you so much, Mr. Satish. Thank you so much, Mr. Ritesh, for joining us and sharing your thoughts.
Thank you so much, Sumit. Thanks for giving the opportunity. Thanks a lot.